Kyle Busch's future was already decided. At least, that's what Richard Childress just revealed. What was supposed to happen at Michigan wasn't another ordinary NASCAR press conference. It wasn't about race results. It wasn't about sponsorships. And it definitely wasn't supposed to become one of the most emotional moments the sport has seen in years. Because according to Childress, he and Kyle Busch were preparing to stand in front of the media together and announce something that almost nobody knew about. Something that would have changed the conversation around Kyle's future completely. Instead, Childress walked into that press conference knowing Kyle Busch would never be standing beside him. And what he revealed left NASCAR fans stunned. We're going to break down everything Richard Childress said, why Michigan was supposed to be a major turning point for Kyle Busch, and the emotional decision that could impact the Busch family for years to come. So make sure you stay with us until the end. But before we jump in, if you enjoy NASCAR stories and breaking news coverage, make sure to like this video, subscribe to NASCAR Nation News, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. For months, questions had surrounded Kyle Busch and Richard Childress Racing. Despite flashes of speed, the results weren't always there. Critics questioned whether Kyle could still compete at the highest level. Others wondered how long he would remain with RCR. Every disappointing finish seemed to fuel more speculation. But according to Richard Childress, the reality behind the scenes was very different. In fact, Childress revealed that he and Kyle had already been discussing the future, because what Richard Childress revealed next showed that Kyle Busch's future at RCR wasn't uncertain at all. It had already been taking shape behind the scenes. Richard Childress explained that Michigan weekend was supposed to include a special announcement about Kyle Busch's future with RCR, with plans for a press conference discussing his return for 2027. Think about what that means. While many fans were debating Kyle's future, the people actually involved had already started planning it. In other words, this wasn't a team preparing to move on from Kyle Busch. It was a team preparing for another chapter with him. And perhaps most importantly, Kyle still believed in what they were building. Richard Childress revealed that he had spoken with Kyle just days before the tragedy. Their conversations weren't focused on retirement. They weren't focused on walking away. They were focused on competing. Kyle reportedly believed that if the team continued providing competitive cars, there was still enough speed and talent to make the NASCAR playoffs this season. That belief says a lot. According to Childress, Kyle was still talking like a competitor who believed his next big moment was still out there waiting for him, rather than reflecting on what he had already achieved. Kyle was focused on what he believed he could still accomplish, and according to Childress, he shared that optimism. That's what makes the entire situation so difficult to hear. Because when people look back now, they don't see a driver reaching the end of a journey. They see someone who was still planning the next chapter. Someone who thought the best moments might still be ahead. As emotional as the extension revelation was, it wasn't the only moment from Childress's press conference that caught attention. He also announced a major decision involving Kyle's iconic number 8. At first, many fans assumed the organization would simply continue racing the number exactly as it had before. That isn't what happened. Instead, Childress revealed that RCR would use the number 33 for the remainder of the season with Austin Hill behind the wheel. The reasoning behind that decision was deeply personal. According to Childress, Kyle's stylized number 8 design would be preserved. But Childress explained that the decision wasn't about retiring the number 8 design, it was about preserving it for someone special. And the reason why may have been the most emotional part of the entire press conference. Childress said he wants that special number 8 to remain available for Brexton Busch if he chooses to use it in his own racing career someday. Let that sink in for a moment. This wasn't just about protecting a number. It was about protecting a legacy. Childress wasn't talking about next week or next season. He was talking about years from now, about a future that could eventually see another Busch carrying that familiar identity onto a racetrack. For many NASCAR fans, that announcement hit especially hard because Brexton has already become one of the most talked about young racers in the country. Brexton's progress on the track has already convinced many people that he could have a very bright future in racing. And those closest to the sport have repeatedly pointed out how much time Kyle invested into helping his son grow as a driver. Which brings us to another powerful moment from Childress's remarks. He spoke openly about the version of Kyle Busch that many fans never got to see. For years, Kyle built a reputation as one of NASCAR's fiercest competitors. Kyle Busch built his career on being outspoken, intense, and completely unafraid of challenging the competition. And because of that, he often became one of the most polarizing figures in the sport. But Childress believes many people misunderstood him. Behind closed doors, he described Kyle as someone who cared deeply about racing, cared deeply about his family, and cared deeply about helping Brexton succeed. That's the side of Kyle that friends and family frequently talk about. And perhaps that's why Childress became emotional while reflecting on what was lost. Because from his perspective, NASCAR didn't just lose a champion, it lost one of its most passionate competitors. Childress even compared the pain of losing Kyle to some of the most difficult moments he has ever experienced in the sport, emphasizing just how significant the loss has been for everyone inside the organization. But amid all the sadness, there was one message that stood out above everything else. Throughout the press conference, Childress repeatedly expressed confidence in Brexton Busch's future. He believes the young driver possesses exceptional talent. That's ultimately why the decision regarding the number 8 matters so much. A future that could see Brexton Busch carrying his family's legacy forward while the legendary number 8 returns to racing once again. And maybe that's the most emotional part of Richard Childress's revelation. Michigan was supposed to be about the future. What was planned at Michigan wasn't just an announcement, it was a confirmation of Kyle Busch's future with the team. Another chapter for one of NASCAR's biggest stars. Instead, it became a moment of reflection, a moment of remembrance, and a moment that revealed just how many plans Kyle Busch still had ahead of him. What do you think about Richard Childress's decision to preserve Kyle's number 8 for Brexton Busch? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching NASCAR Nation News, and we'll see you in the next one.